Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead. Aherne. Today's top stories: Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have already got to work on taking over the White House in January. 200 cardiac patients at University Hospital Waterford are to have diagnostic appointments at private facilities, while in sport, Waterford FC travel to Donegal, hoping to clinch the chance of playing in Europe. Joe Biden says tackling the coronavirus pandemic will be his top priority after he beat Donald Trump to the White House. The president-elect is expected to name a COVID-19 task force today. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is continuing to make unsubstantiated claims about voter fraud and says he'll begin to launch his legal challenges later. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan was one of the first Republicans to congratulate Joe Biden. He says Donald Trump should consider conceding.
I think he ought to at least acknowledge that he will, even if it may take a few more days for, cooler heads to prevail and to convince him that it's the right thing to do for the nation. More and more people in my party are accepting the results, and a number of people also did congratulate the president-elect, and hopefully the president's team will do the right thing in the end.
A US drug giant says early data suggests its vaccine is more than 90% effective in preventing people from getting coronavirus. More than 43,000 people have taken part in a trial and either got 2 doses of either the immunisation or a placebo, which doesn't do anything. Pfizer's developing the jab with German firm BioNTech. Sky's Thomas Moore says it's positive news.
It is a tremendous result. Very, very good protection, in the words of one scientist. There's more to go, though. They need to do further safety analysis. They also need to prove that you can make it at scale. Of course, we need billions of doses of this vaccine.
Waterford's COVID-19 incidence rate has fallen to its lowest level in 3 weeks and is now 148 per 100,000. Just 3 counties, Leitrim, Wexford and Wicklow, have a total of less than 100. There were fewer than 5 new cases in Waterford yesterday. COVID-19 messaging is reaching young people, according to Spun Out. It comes after calls for the HSE to target more social media campaigns towards sites like Instagram and TikTok. The HSE has spent around €150,000 in advertising, with over 1,300 ads and general posts on Twitter. Spun Out Chief Executive, Waterford native Ian Power believes young people aren't just getting their messages from social media.
We've been working since late March, early April to try to communicate the messages to young people where they're at. So that's Snapchat and Instagram for us mostly. They are picking it up, and young people do consume the wider news kind of media as well. I think that's always overplayed, to be honest, in the narrative that young people don't pay attention to the news.
Hundreds of cardiac patients in the southeast due to attend diagnostic clinics will be able to avail of the National Treatment Purchase Fund. Independent Waterford TD Matt Shanahan says patients are expected to be offered appointments at the private UPMC Whitfield Hospital in Waterford or the option of going to Cork. It's understood the Department of Health are trying to reduce waiting lists and to ensure continuity of care for patients at University Hospital Waterford, and that the initiative has the support of cardiac teams locally. Deputy Shanahan told Damien Tiernan on Daisha today that he hopes patients will be able to opt for Whitfield.
And to me that would be a far better scenario, because we're not asking medical card patients to try and make their way to Dublin or Cork in very difficult circumstances in the middle of a pandemic when public transport is operating at 50% and all of the other strictures that we have.
The INMO are calling on the government to give fair allowances and pay for nursing and midwifery students at present. First, second and third year nurses that have been working throughout the pandemic are not being paid for their placements. Instead, some students are given an allowance of up to €50 a week. The issue is set to be reviewed by the Department of Health in the coming days. Aoife, a newly qualified nurse from Waterford, explains what it was like working as a student nurse during the pandemic.
One of the wards I was working on had a huge COVID outbreak, and the ward itself actually ended up closing down, and I developed symptoms for COVID in that time, and so I was obviously self-isolating up in Dublin, and I didn't have my family around to kind of look after me, and I was trying to protect my roommate as well at the same time. So it was really tough for everyone. Like, people didn't see their family for months, which is a lot of kind of responsibility for someone who's not even qualified yet.
Gardaí have renewed their appeal for information on the 25th anniversary of Josephine Jojo Dullard's disappearance. Last month, their investigations were upgraded to a murder inquiry. Noel Colbert reports.
Jojo was last seen on November 9th, 1995. That night, she had been in Brussels Bar off Grafton Street in Dublin City and later got the bus from Bussora Station to Naas in County Kildare. The 21-year-old then hitched 2 lifts as far as Moon Village and phoned a friend from a public phone box in the village shortly after 11:30. While on the phone, a vehicle stopped to offer her a lift. Gardaí have never been able to identify this vehicle or the person driving it. Jojo has not been seen since, and Gardaí believe serious harm came to her. Their investigation now classified as a murder investigation. Gardaí are asking anyone who might have seen Jojo in the bar, on the bus or in Moon Village to contact them. They say Jojo's family have suffered from her disappearance for 25 years now. They say they're determined to provide answers to them and bring her murderer to justice.
The managing director of a biopharmaceutical company says Waterford will be front and centre following their acquisition by a US company. Artisan Biosolutions, which manufactures single-use solutions for the industry, has been acquired by Repligen in a $200 million deal. Jonathan Downey says they've expanded from 10 employees to around 50 in the past 18 months.
We've production product leaving the facility almost on a daily basis at this stage. We're possibly going to outgrow the facility. There are options there. We may expand onto the facility, but certainly the plans are very much that Ireland is front and centre. We've got 5 sites around the world. So there's 3 sites in California, there's a site in Estonia, and there's the site in Waterford. Waterford is the global headquarters from a commercial and corporate point of view.
Rent prices in Waterford City have risen by 5% year on year. That's according to the latest report from property site daft.ie. WLR's Aoife Kearns reports.
Rent prices have risen by 2.9% in County Waterford and 5% in Waterford City year on year. That's according to daft.ie's latest rental report. The average cost of renting a property in County Waterford is €990 and €1,058 in Waterford City. The cost of renting a 3-bedroom house in Waterford City is €1,006, an annual change of 0.9%. Meanwhile, in Waterford County, there's been an annual percentage change of 1.6% in the rental price of the same sort of property. It now costs €897 to rent a 3-bedroom house in County Waterford. Within 3 months of 2019, there was a 2% increase in rent prices in Munster. Nationally, rents have risen by 1.5% between June and September of 2020.
Make the smart play with Virgin Media. Check out their smart home packages at Virgin Media George's Street, Waterford.
Sponsors of the sports news on WLR.
Very good afternoon from the sports desk. I'm Nigel Kelly. We'll start with soccer, where this evening sees the League of Ireland season come to a close in a year like no other. This campaign has seen Waterford FC with 3 managers, 2 major breaks in play and ultimately 1 goal in sight, that being playing in Europe next season. Franny Rocket took up the mantle when John Sheridan left, and he's guided the Blues to the edge of a European qualifier, but it's not done yet. They need to beat Finn Harps tonight in Ballybuffet, while also needing a favour from Sligo Rovers, who need to beat Dundalk. Franny Rocket spoke to WLR Sport ahead of kick-off.
There's going to be a lot of emotion in the game on both sides, but it's, I think, whoever puts their shoulder to the wheel, more clinical, deals with defensive, discipline, all the areas of defending what they have to offer, and be more clinical in the attacking end, and just finish out this job, because I think the boys have been really good, and I really, really do think we've turned the corner. The Dundalk game isn't a better game that we could have played before the Finn Harps one in terms of our discipline and how we went on to win it.
Kick-off this evening in Donegal is at 7:30, and we'll have live commentary on WLR thanks to McConnell's Toyota Waterford, with Matt Keane and Gavin Whelan calling the action from about 7:15. Dundalk will guarantee Europa League football for next season if they can avoid defeat against Sligo Rovers at Oriel Park. Finn Harps know they have to win at home to Waterford to have any chance of avoiding a relegation promotion playoff against Longford. Elsewhere, Shelbourne take on the champions Shamrock Rovers at Talca Park, while Cork City are at home to Derry City, and St Pat's welcome Bows to Richmond Park. All games underway from 7:30 this evening. Staying with soccer, where the Republic of Ireland squad will train in Barnet today ahead of Thursday's friendly against England at Wembley Stadium. Enda Stevens will miss that game, as well as the Nations League matches against Wales and Bulgaria due to a knee injury. Nottingham Forest defender Cyrus Christie has joined up with Stephen Kenny's squad as a replacement. On to Gaelic games, where the All-Ireland champions Tipperary will face the rivals Cork in the second round of the All-Ireland Hurling Championship qualifiers. The other game will see Wexford manager Davy Fitz go up against his native county Clare and of course his ex-teammate Brian Lohan. Both games will be played at neutral venues next weekend, with the details set to be confirmed later. While staying with GAA, and the four-time All-Ireland winner Kieran Donaghy believes a defensive mindset played a major role in Kerry's defeat to Cork yesterday. Mark Keane scored a goal in injury time of extra time to give Cork a first championship win over the Kingdom since 2012. Donaghy believes some of the personnel used was more of an issue than the approach used by Peter Keane and his management team.
Was it so much different to what we did versus Monaghan and Donegal? I don't think so. It was solid enough, 12 behind the ball, 13 at times, trying to leave David or Tony Braston close to goal, pushing people down to the sidelines. Like most people are playing, everybody's tracking their man, everybody's going up the pitch, everybody's going down the pitch, and so I don't think it's necessarily this huge. Kerry have changed all their style and have gone from tradition and they're getting back. I think where the Kerry management got it wrong was the personnel.
Moving to rugby, where Ulster take on Glasgow Warriors at the Kingspan Stadium in the Pro 14 tonight from about 8:15. While in horse racing, there's an 8-race card at Dundalk, where the first one goes to post in an hour's time at 2 o'clock. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Waterford. WLR asks you to keep Waterford safe by staying at home and travelling for essential purposes only.